Welcome everybody to Sin City Living. My name is Jason and I'll be bringing you today's episode. As always, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. We have a ton of content for you guys coming out every single week, every single day generally. Occasionally miss a day like I did during the rodeo that is still ongoing right now. And I hope all of our patrons out there are appreciating the patron-only exclusive videos we're putting out with the Dice class, putting one out every couple of weeks. And if you're curious about that, go ahead and check the description down below. Once I get this whole live stream thing figured out, I'm probably going to do a live stream on the patron site as well. One on the regular site, one on the patron site. I do have the new computer for it. Theoretically, I have everything ready. I'm just so busy currently with this rodeo. And one of our fans asked a question a little while back about ways to tip us, to show appreciation to us without having to sign up as one of our patrons. And at the time we did not have any way of doing it, but I have managed now to get us signed up with a site called Buy Me a Coffee. As I'm sure some of you guys have noticed from some of our videos, Louie and I are both pretty heavy coffee drinkers. So if you're curious about that as well, go ahead and check down below in the description as well. We would definitely appreciate any cups of coffee you're willing to pick up for us. And don't forget to email us with any strategies, questions, suggestions, anything at all. We love shooting those videos for you guys. I actually haven't gotten a new email in about 2 weeks. And also, don't forget, anybody that may be interested in one of the small Sin City Living neons that we have, just email us that as well, sincitylivingLV@gmail.com. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and get into today's episode. So for today's video, I want to cover a fan email, an email that was sent to us. Thank you very much, by the way, for sending it to us. This was sent by Kevin. We appreciate these emails being sent to us. Kind of ebbs and flows with the emails, and as you guys know, this is our favorite thing to film. Real quickly, want to thank every single person out there that has been buying me a cup of coffee. As you guys know, I pretty much live off of coffee, nicotine, and some of my old Airborne Spites. So very, very appreciated. We're going to attempt to try and feature some of the coffees. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and mix it up as best I can and tell you guys what I'm drinking. As far as the nicotine part goes, I vape, so I can't really give you too much there. So for today's video, or for today's fan email, he asks a question about how to talk to the dealers, and what he means by that is how to talk to the dealers when they make a mistake, because mistakes absolutely happen. As a dealer, as a box, I always encourage the players, when players ask a question and we show them that we paid them correctly, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," I always tell them, "Hey, don't worry about it. If you're not sure, you should always ask, because we do make mistakes. As the box, my job is to catch the mistakes, but I don't catch everything. I have half the table to watch. The stick person has the other half. I'm technically supposed to watch the whole table, and I do my best. But I could have a marker going or 2 markers going, plus a couple of players' cards to put in, plus somebody to close out that just left the table. And I could get distracted, especially when I notice the bets, to me, are kind of easy. And that's something that I have to work on when I'm sitting box, is that just because a bet looks kind of easy to me doesn't necessarily mean that it is easy. So his question deals with the don'ts, the DC. He's a DC player. He's not a DC player, but he had a strategy that was based around the DC. So he was playing the DCs, and he was in an outside of Vegas, an out-of-state casino. So let's see. So he was doing a hedging strategy. And it says he was in a Midwestern casino, so it could have been any of them out there that allow craps. There's not too many of them out there. Probably had a smaller table max. And it says that it's not so much that the strategy was the issue, as the issue became the payouts. The payouts. And let's see here. And he does say, having to call out how they win and win was taking away some of the fun of playing craps. Well, unfortunately, that part right there, there's nothing you can do about that, because that is supposed to be the way it goes. The thing about the DCs is the DCs are kept back here. So let's say I have a player playing the DCs. And let's say they've had two of them travel to an 8 and a 10. Ooh, that's set up wrong, because it should always be facing away from the box. And a 7 out occurs. So the technical proper way to pay these is after I have dealt with everything out here, take the pass line, take the field, set it right here because all this is lost. So set it right here. Then I'll pay the don't pass. And then from there, if I happen to have any place bets that have lost, I'm going to push them out of the way. Now, the DCs are a dangerous proposition because they are so close to the working stacks. And on top of that, they're very, very easy to make mistakes because, especially outside of Vegas, you don't get a lot of them. You know, here in Vegas, we get enough of them that I expect my dealers to be able to pay them. Do I expect them to pay them perfectly to procedure? To be honest, no. But I do expect them to be able to pay them. But just in case they can't, I have to watch it. The don'ts is something that must be watched very, 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 very closely. So now that I've taken care of everything else, as the dealer, I stop and I yell out very loudly, paying behind. I must yell that. Now that I've yelled that, then I go to pay them, and a good dealer, especially one that's relatively new or still remembers their training, is going to know that they need to call out everything. They're going to go to the lay. 30 pays 15. They can just size into the flat bet. They don't need to call anything there. Then they're going to go 30 pays 25. They're going to clear their hands. Now that's something that not a lot of dealers do. Then they're going to stack it all up. And then here's the next thing that is by procedure required of them. No 8, no 10, and then hand it off. So with the don't comes, by procedure, the way they are taught and the proper way to deal, they are actually required to call out a lot of the stuff. So the calling out portion of it is not something you can do anything about. If you play down in Vegas, especially, definitely not the off-strip places, but on the strip or some of the resorts or the higher end, the tier 3, tier 4 casinos, then you're very likely to not hear any of that. These dealers are experienced. They've been dealing for years, if not decades. The don'ts are something they can theoretically do unconsciously. Does not mean I don't still watch. I do have a few dealers that I work with that most definitely are not unconscious about that. But they're going to deal it relatively silent. They're even going to do some things they're not supposed to do, such as totaling the bets and stuff like that. And we're okay with that, because they have the experience and they have the skill and they have the ability to do that. But the calling out of bets, unfortunately, again, not something you're going to be able to do anything about. Now, he mentions that throughout the session, he actively talked through the strategy he was using. That is something that is very, very, very helpful. When you have a strategy, because here's the thing. For the dealers know all the standard strategies. Iron cross, the don't hedges, all the silly stuff. But the thing that is most burned into the dealers' brains, especially an experienced dealer, I honestly can't talk about the outside Vegas dealers because I've met a few and their skill sets were super, super low, not because of training or anything else, but because the action they saw was very low. Craps is not as big outside of Las Vegas. So their skill set may not be quite the same. But here in Vegas, the dealers, they know the standard stuff, the mid presses, the power presses, just in general pressing. If you're pressing your bets, stuff like that. When you start getting into the weird stuff, hedges, cross presses and regression strategies and stuff like that, the dealers are pretty much checked out. They know, they've memorized, they understand all the presses, or they should. They'll know most of the presses. I should put it that way. They know most of the presses. But when you get into other strategies, it is best to talk to the dealers. Let them know what you're doing. It's fantastic for me when I've got a player and they tell me, hey, I'm always going to press one unit. Hey, sweet. Okay, that makes it so much easier for me. I can do my press move without you even saying anything. It's a lot better than telling me after I've done the payout. Hey, I am, when my DC travels, I'm always going to do max lay, so help me out with let me know what that is. Okay, cool. Now I know to make sure that the stick does not move the dice too fast. So as soon as we travel that don't come, we can hold the dice and say, okay, so your max lay is X amount if you want to drop that for me. And they're going to wait. If you haven't communicated with the dealer, if that don't come travels, and then we pay out all the place bets and you haven't said anything, they're going to move the dice. If you're still counting out your chips for your lay or so on and so forth. So the more you communicate with the dealers, the better they are able to take care of you, better they are able to help you. Hey, I always do X with my bets. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. I'm more than happy to help you out with that. Hey, when my DC goes here, I always do this. Okay, that's great. I'm more than happy to help you with that as well. We want to be able to help you, but we need you to communicate with us because for the most part, we're concerned with all the players at the table, not just one, which means we need a quick game. So if it doesn't look like you're doing anything or doesn't look like you're ready, we're going to move the dice so that the rest of the players that are ready are able to play their game and to enjoy the game. So communicating with the dealers, extremely, extremely, extremely important. He does mention that the dealers like that someone's trying something new. We actually we are either amused, interested, or appreciative of new things because it makes us feel like we're doing something. I can't tell you how many dealers I've come across that will tell me in the middle of a game, like, yeah, I haven't dealt craps in the last 4 hours. I haven't dealt craps all shift because everyone is just same bet, same bet, same bet. Or let me get across and then after a couple of rolls, take me down or regress to this and the same bet, same bet. They don't feel like they're dealing. They feel like they're dealing not just by paying out, but by actually doing more than just paying out. Pressing this, cross-pressing this, press this one, move this one over here. When it feels like the player is actually trying to win as much money as possible, the dealer feels like they are actually dealing the game. So dealers definitely, we like new strategies. Plus, we find it interesting. We've seen the same things over and over and over again. We've seen the strategies that enable players to win, 30 times their initial buy-in, and we know what those strategies are. But then we know that there's players out there that are just trying to win a few $100 or just trying to minimize their losses on each roll, and we find it interesting when we see these different strategies. Now he does mention that at times it got so bad where he was at that if he didn't have a dealer bet with the don't come, it would be mishandled. Unfortunately, the don't come is one of the bigger issues, and it's a big issue for a couple reasons. One, the bet is right here. It's right here, and I've always joked around about taking a little car's blind spot mirror and attaching it to my glasses to point right down at the don't come. Because as soon as a number rolls, if it's the winner, I immediately look out there. If it's not the winner, the first thing my eyes are drawn to is the field, and the second thing my eyes are drawn to is whatever that number is that just rolled. The don't come is just not something my eyes are drawn to because it's just not that common. Common enough, I get a couple dozen of them a shift. Might have one don't come player an hour every other hour kind of thing. But because I have a don't come player, one don't come player for every, say, 30 regular players, combat players or place bet players, if I haven't dealt with a don't come for a couple of hours, I may not even glance at it. And it may just get lost, even though that is a spot that I tend to keep an eye on because it's a spot that's easy to take a shot on. And then outside of that, again, it's an entirely different procedure. For me, because I used to teach this game, very, very simple. For super experienced dealers, very, very simple. They tend to go outside of procedure, but they do know how to handle it. But again, when you get outside of Las Vegas, you run into dealers that just don't have the experience with that kind of stuff. It sucks. It's unfortunate. But it's just a reality of the world. It's just the outside of Las Vegas, craps is not that big, and the dealers are just not that experienced. I actually worked with a guy that he dealt craps in an out-of-state casino, had $100 minimum or maximum bet. It's the biggest bet that was allowed on any particular bet, and he moved to Vegas because he wanted to be a dealer and wanted to go where being a dealer is actually a not just a profession that can support you, but a profession in which you can really succeed. I mean, there's casinos out here where if you're just a dealer, you're more than able to afford a wife, kids, a house, private schools, cars, so on and so forth, plus the ability to move up and so on and so forth. So he moved out to Vegas because he wanted to be a dealer, and he dealt craps twice and shifted over to only dealing blackjack and roulette and the carnival games just because he couldn't handle the action because it was so wildly different than what he had seen. And he had dealt for a year. He had dealt craps for a year. Was considered a good craps dealer at where he was at. But by Vegas standards and by Vegas, not standards, but by Vegas action, he was just buried. It wasn't his fault. And the same thing occurs outside of Las Vegas for other dealers as well. So that's just something, unfortunately, you're going to run into. So the final part of his question, the final part of Kevin's question is, how do you deal with that? How do you tell the dealers about a mistake and things along those lines? And the best way I could put it is politely when it comes to something such as a don't come that has not traveled. If you have a don't come and they start paying the place bets, that's a good time to say, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but I have a don't come bet there. Because the don't comes are supposed to travel before place bets are placed. Supposed to travel before come bets are moved and before place bets are placed. So, or paid. So if they start paying the place bets, then you can say, hey, I'm sorry, but I got a don't come there. I don't know if you noticed. Or, hey, don't forget to travel me behind the 5 or something along those lines. Whatever the number rolled is. Hey, I'm sorry, you may have missed that. Because then the dealer's going to be like, oh, you're right, absolutely right, I'm sorry, so sorry, my bad. After a couple corrections like that, they're going to start looking for your bet. If it comes to a payout, if you think they may have paid you wrong, when it comes to, say, a place bet, a come bet, or pass line, or a don't pass bet, if you think they paid you wrong, don't touch the bet. Don't touch the payout. Leave the bet and the payout sitting on the table and say, are you sure this is right? Because they're not going to want to move the dice till you pick up your money. So they're probably going, hey, pick up your money, pick up your money, pick up your money. But if you're saying, hold on, I'm not sure this is right, then they'll be forced to double check it. And theoretically, they should catch it at that point. If they don't, the box will, or one of the other dealers. Because if you say, hey, I'm not sure this is right, trust me, at least one other dealer besides your base dealer is taking a look at the bet. Guaranteed. When it comes to the behind, because they end up getting stacked up after they are paid, you don't want to wait that long. If you notice that they have mispaid a particular number before they clear their hands and start stacking, you say, oh, hold on a second, I think that's wrong. Hey, I'm sorry, I think that may not be right. And make them double check it before they stack it up, because once it's all stacked up, it's going to get lost. So thank you very much, Kevin, for sending this email to us. I hope this answered your questions, and I hope everyone else finds this interesting, enlightening, illuminating, or at least just plain fun. Thank you very much for watching. We will catch you next time, YouTube. Bye now. So, as I promised, I wanted to go over very briefly our upcoming attempts at a third test live stream. So what's happened so far? The first test live stream just flat didn't work. The problem that I had was was an equipment problem. I had an equipment problem in that the equipment that I was using to translate the camera into streamable video to the computer required a better USB port than the computer I was using at the time. So that one just flat failed because it would not translate into the computer. The computer would not pick it up, would not read it, so I wasn't able to live stream it. So then, as I was looking through, because I'm a little bit of a tech head, as I was looking through all of my other stuff, because I do have 4 laptops here and 3 computers, I did find one that actually did have the newer style USB port. Unfortunately, it was actually my oldest laptop, but I figured, what the heck, let me give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? And this time around, when I fired everything up, the video was actually translating onto the computer, so things were looking better. But then when I attempted to live stream, the computer was not powerful enough to be able to translate it and then upload it sufficiently. So it basically just uploaded a blank screen for the live stream. So what I am going to have to do is, and I'm already looking into all of my options, I'm going to upgrade my computer so I can add, what, a 7th, 8th computer to my household. And I'm going to go much, much higher, and I'm going to get a computer that is far more than I need for this, far, far, far more powerful than I need for this. That way, any future upgrades that I may do, the computer will be able to handle it. So unfortunately, this computer is going to cost me about 25% more, about 25% of what I've already laid out in all the equipment for this channel. So it wasn't something I could just instantly buy. I'm probably looking at Black Friday or Cyber Monday. So hopefully I have it within the next couple of weeks, and then I'll do another test live stream and see if I can go from there. So I will definitely do at least one weekly live stream on our Patreon because they're the ones that are really helping us get this computer. And the other equipment that I'm going to get, because I figure if I'm buying the computer, I might as well buy the most high-end capture cards and things along those lines, get everything as good as possible, and then hopefully eventually get a better microphone for you guys. So yeah, that's where we stand on the live stream. As soon as I have the computer and I do the test, which will be in a few weeks, like I said, I've got to order it in a week or two, then I have to wait for it to ship. Plus we have probably the biggest event of the year coming up, the NFR National Finals Rodeo. So I'm basically working 2 weeks straight, as is my wife. So not going to have a whole lot of time. But once we get all that under control, then we'll figure out. There's been some schedule changes to myself, some schedule changes to my wife, and some upcoming schedule changes to my wife as well. So hopefully we can get all the scheduling figured out so I know when I'll be able to live stream as well. My initial plan of Thursdays at 6 o'clock is already out the window. I'm at work at that point now. So we will get it all figured out, and we will let you guys know, I promise. And otherwise, I hope you guys have found this interesting, enlightening, illuminating, or at least just plain fun. And we will catch you guys next time. Bye now.